Okay, welcome everybody to coming to keynote session. So in this conference, as you know, we have the valuable keynote speaker, two keynote speakers. So first one keynote session after the second session. My name is KGK from Quebec University in Daegu in Korea. I'd like to introduce the keynote speaker. To introduce two keynote speaker. This time keynote speaker is Professor Sang-Chul Pa. He is a very distinguished professor. He got a PhD and medical doctor from Seoul National University, and he served a long time professor in Seoul National University. So maybe just 33 years old, long time. So, and he experienced postdoc in NIH in USA. He research topic, the main topic, originally biochemistry and biology, and nowadays the more active research about the sports and the combined sports and medical research field in special topic, aging process. So, now he is working in disease field, Daegu Gyeongbu Institute of Sport and Technology, near present the Hyunpo area. Now, so especially so director of professor and the well-being research team, especially so. Today, so his topic exercise program for the elders based on traditional culture and science and practice. Okay, please welcome the people.
Thank you very much, Professor Kim. It's a long time has passed since we met the last time. Well, congratulations for the Asian Conference on Kindness Neurology, and I'm really happy to have this opportunity to be with you and introduce some of my work. Well, I'm actually working on the aging research, not the science of sports itself. But in this aging research, what is important is exercise. As you know, the aging, the parenchymal loss, and the functional decline, which leads to the frailty and disease proneness, and it makes a social burden. It's well known. We well know it very well. And it's also we well know very well with aging, the oxygen consumption rate in the muscle area is decreasing significantly with aging, and the issue is around this age, the sarcopenia, muscle loss is severe. But we know, we know very well that the exercise effect is strong. This case of identical twin, that after the exercise, the body size and composition totally different. And then more than that, recently, the new campaign started, the Masters Athletics, which you know very well. And the Masters Athletics, in this competition, a new class, the Beyond 100, the centenarian class has been initiated. And this guy is Mr. Kowalski, is from Polish person. He got the EU champion in 100-meter dash. His record was 31 seconds. And more interestingly, the marathon, full course marathon, has been done by the centenarian also. And furthermore, 1,500 meter swimming, the Japanese lady, the Mieko, she finished, and her record was included in the Guinness Book. So, beyond 100 centenarians, they can compete in 100 meter dash and marathon and swimming. It's amazing stories coming up. So in this part, today's presentation, I would like to introduce two parts. In first part, I would like to introduce my science. A part of my science is related with muscle aging. And the second part, my practical application of this program to the Korean people, exercise program for the seniors. I will introduce these two parts. My personal special concern on aging research is responsiveness. The responsiveness, senescence, aging associated changes in responsiveness.
when we're talking about the responsiveness in our body, we can categorize into three classes. One is metabolic response, second is stress response, the third is mitogenic response. Metabolic response should be maintained stable until the last moment. Glucose homeostasis, temperature homeostasis, all metabolic responses should be remained stable. The stress response, we know very well also. With aging, the stress response is reduced. The many kinds of stresses we have, physical, mental, biological, whatever the social stress, the response is delayed or reduced. But the more interesting, the more important thing is mitogenic response. With aging, the mitogenic response is completely gone. No mitogenic response. That's the big issue. And actually, this is the major source of irreversibility nature of aging. So my first question on aging was why with aging the mitogenic response is reduced. Then we asked the question first. And we found that the caveolin was related strongly. And later we found that the muscle aging is also related to this caveolin also, which I would like to introduce briefly today. When we screened the many systems, we found that the caveolin, I will explain a bit later, that the caveolin level is increased with aging. Caveolin level increased with aging. And with this increase of caveolin-1, it blocks many of the growth factor signalings. So we found that the caveolin is very important in the muscle, in all the tissues with aging. And this is the blocking the growth factor signalings. So by just reducing the caveolin status, we could resume the growth factor responses. So senescent phenotype can be reversed, even reversed. The growth factor mitogenic response is reversed, and more than that, the morphological change is also reversed. With aging, the cells are enlarged and flattened, but just elimination of caveolin-1, you change it to just like a useful status, just young-like cells. So simply adjusting the level of caveolin-1, we could resume the young-like morphology and also the growth factor responsiveness. And we found that this caveolin is interacting with RAC and CD42, and this is associated with focal adhesion system. So intracellular cytoskeletal system is influenced by this caveolin-1, and we found that this is the mechanism. So we can tell that the phenotype of the senescent cells could be determined by crosstalk of the built-in function and morphology determinants. So this function and morphology is crosstalking we reported. Well, what about the muscle tissues in caveolin-1 status? We checked. And actually, the caveolin-1 is three isoforms are reported. Caveolin-1, 2, 3. The one is adipocyte, fibroblast, endothelial cell enriched. And caveolin-3 is in skeletal tissue, cardiac, smooth muscle tissues. It was reported in that way. The caveolin-3 is for muscle tissues, either cardiac or smooth or skeletal muscles. And caveolin-1 is not in the muscle tissues. But we are interested in the caveolin-1 because the caveolin-1, this scaffolding domain is interacting with insulin receptor. So it modifying the insulin responsiveness. So we are interested. Although the caveolin-3 was only reported in the muscle tissues, we paid special attention on caveolin-1 status in muscle tissues. But interestingly, in the adipocyte, the caveolin-1 is interaction with insulin signaling has been reported already. So we checked with the L6 myocyte. We found that the caveolin-1 and GLUT4 interaction, we checked when we give the insulin, is emerging together. And ultracentrifugation, the fractionation technology, we could confirm that the caveolin-1 and GLUT4 is co-localized, interacting probably. So next we check the elimination of caveolin-1 and caveolin-3, and we give the insulin, and then we check the glucose uptake. We found that only in caveolin-1 knockdown, glucose uptake is completely reduced. caveolin 3 doesn't show any activity toward the insulin sensitivity. So we found that the insulin response through caveolin 1 is also working in muscle cells. So because of this data, we focused on the muscle aging with aging. When we reported the first time, we checked all the tissues between young and old, cortex, midbrain, hippocampus, cerebellum, heart, lung, all tissues we have checked. But in all tissues, we found that the caveolin is increased with aging. That was we reported, so that we told that the caveolin 1 is a ubiquitous senescence marker. But after we found that it's in relation with insulin, we checked for the first time that the muscle tissue, fat tissue, which compared. And interestingly, we found that in the muscle and the fat tissues, caveolin 1 status in all the tissues is completely reduced, totally reversed. So we questioned why. But these two tissues are insulin-sensitive organs. So we paid special attention on insulin responses. And we adopted this special system. This mouse is totally different from DBA or OBOB mouse. These are all obesity-dependent diabetes model, but this model is totally different. JYD model is non-obese type, age-dependent diabetic model. We adopted this system. We found that glucose uptake between C57 and OBOB and JYD similarly. The muscle area, glucose uptake is totally reduced with aging. So we checked all the insulin-related markers, and we found that the JYD model is significantly reduced with aging, those insulin-sensitive markers. And so with this model, we tried to knock down the caveolin oil or input the caveolin. In case of C57 models, which they show the higher level of caveolin with aging, we give the caveolin 1 knockdown, and we found the GTT and ITT level is impaired. So, though it's not much significant, but significantly, not much high, but significantly it changes GTT and ITT level, it means it is working. Caveolin 1 knockdown is influence the glucose sensitivity, insulin sensitivity. And when we added the caveolin 1 into the JYD mouse, we developed this kind of viral vector, and we found that the GTT, ITT both, when we added the caveolin 1, and it's completely recovered the GTT, ITT level, and with a fat analysis, we found that when this right side and left side, when we give the caveolin area, the glucose uptake is increased. So with this kind of data, we can say that the caveolin is important. And for the exercise, we tested the exercise training with this relationship. With this model, when we give the exercise, caveolin 1 is increased in muscle tissues, significantly increased. And the resistance exercise, the caveolin is more significantly increased. And for the human beings, it's by Professor Kim Chang-gun in the Hankook Cheikdae. He tested with the pentalon people. He tested the deltoid and vascular lateralis and showed the increase of the caveolin. So furthermore, the hormone sensitivity we have checked, and we found that the caveolin status is significantly increased with growth hormone. Growth hormone response is very dramatic, much better than exercise in increasing of caveolin status. And recently, we have published that the dexamethasone-induced atrophy, muscle atrophy, we are trying to figure out the mechanism of dexamethasone-induced muscle atrophy. we found that with the dexamethasone treatment, most of the insulin-sensitive molecules reduced. And also, caverns with dexamethasone reduced. So it shows that the dexamethasone-dependent muscle atrophy is related to caveolin status. And we give it the caveolin overexpression, and we found that it covered many of the insulin-sensitive organs, and the myotube is enlarged. And furthermore, the stem cell differentiation, we found that the mesenchymal stem cell, the adipogenic differentiation, and we give the caveolin, it blocking the adipogenic differentiation. And furthermore, in the Korean centenarians, we have found that try to figure out any difference in the caveolin gene expression. And we found that in the normal people, some differences, but in the centenarian, no difference. No SNPs. So for the centenarians, exactly intact caveolin-1 state was confirmed. So with this kind of data, we can conclude the caveolin status of skeletal muscle might influence insulin sensitivity in aged organ, and also they contribute to prevent and delay the appearance of type 2 diabetes, and also caveolin-1 status in muscle tissue is a sensitive hormonal status and might be responsible for muscle differentiation and age-dependent muscle loss. Okay, in the second part, I would like to introduce briefly about the exercise program for the elders in Korea. The reason for the importance of the elderly exercise, we know very well. The aging is accompanied with perpetual loss, especially muscle. The muscle is responsible for mobility, efficiency, and the muscle is well restored by exercise. We know it very well. And quality of life is mainly dependent on mobility. So, exercise is the best choice for global aging problem. It's evident. But the problem is, traditional reluctance to exercise, especially Korean men cases, the Yanban system, the sedentary scholastic culture, and cultural conflicts of participation, seniority, priority, result age discrimination, the generation gap. So, and furthermore, there is no adequate senior exercise program. So my big question in this part is how to encourage the older people to join exercise program. Not the program itself, but how to motivate the older people. We pay much attention on that. So I take the two routes. One strategy is I show since I have worked on the centenarian in Korea, I introduced the Korean centenarian, how they live along, where they live along, in that case. So I introduced the centenarians as the model for public lifelong exercise-based longevity is important. And second is elderly friendly exercise program we have developed. In Okinawa, when I visited Okinawa, I found that this lady, she was more than 80, but with this big bottle on the head, she could dance almost more than 15 minutes. So I was amazed, how can she maintain her balance so long time with on the head, this big bottle. So I was very much impressed. And I met Shoji Saburo in Japan. I met him at 102 years of age, and he showed me this kind of exercise program. And he was very, very active. And I met the Korean centenarian in Gokseong province. He was 102 at that time. And when I interviewed him, he was very proud of himself. He told me that he can push up 100 times every day. And he showed himself that pushing up. So I was very much amazed how they, at the age of 100, beyond 100, they can do such exercise. So we have checked the Korean centenarians all over Korea, and we found that the centenarian distribution is we have around in Korea about 250 counties, and we compared with altitude, the longevity, and we found that a little bit in mid-high zone, the longevity index is high. And the forest rate, we have checked, and the mid-forest rate is high. Why? We paid special attention, and we compared the centenarians from mountain area, centenarians from a flat seaside area, and we compared all the data, hematological data, blood chemistry, and whatever, and we found that the HDL cholesterol is much better in the mountain centenarians. Albumins, vitamin B12, folate, many of the important biochemical characters are much better in mountainside centenarians. Why? So mountainside provides something different from the flat area. So we can readily imagine that health activity must be higher, chronic disease lesser, dietary habit more regular, hematological states better, HDL. So we can say that the ecohabitat impact on lifestyle, such as physical activity and food pattern of inhabitants, ecohabitat impact is evident. We can conclude. The distribution of Korean centenarians, females, high jaundice is like this. The male centenarian living in this is a mountainside, mountain area. This kind of distributional changes, differences between male and female is another significance we have. But anyhow, we can tell that the male centenarian's health state was better. I didn't introduce it in detail, but the mountainside centenarian is in better condition. So we can say that physical activity is a prerequisite for a better health state of centenarians rather than the nutritional, pharmacological, medical, or genetic factors. So we can conclude and inform and introduce the big news, that is, exercise is essential for health maintenance and functional restoration becomes a reality. So we tried to develop a kind of exercise program for the older people, and as you know, there are many problems, the physical factors, organ difficulties, and mental factors, motivation decrease, and accident awareness, and social factors, friend loss, and interactive program deficits. And furthermore, to overcome these kind of problems, how to overcome the physical factors, we should develop some kind of relevant exercise program for age-adjusted physical fitness. And the mental factors, self-motivated activity encouragement is important. The social factors, friendly atmosphere we should make to support them. So we developed a kind of some interesting principles. We can say that I will do program, let them have a motivation activation. I can do program that let the people that encourage the participation and the recruitment for senior centers for regular and official program. So with this, we tried to figure out some kind of philosophical approaches and to discuss together, and we made this kind of principle for exercise programs. One is the safety principle for physical factors, and culture principle for mental factors, and productivity principle for social factors. We have considered all those principles together and tried to figure out some program. And this program should be not only the physical but also the mental exercise. For affinity and motivation, we adopted the traditional culture, dance and folk music, to stimulate the mental functions. And activity pattern, we simplified it, stretching and relaxing, and easy to learn, burden-free, balance and flexibility. It's a safety principle is adopted. And together, social stimuli. So we recruited all the senior centers. So we developed 우리 천체죠. And it's almost 15 years have passed. More than 15 years have passed. And many different stages of 우리 천체 have been developed. Like this. And when we have this kind of competition, so many old people, they gathered together and they really enjoyed and they are delighted. We have many national contest kind of, many So many people gathered together and they willingly do that. So some of the effects on health and the quality of life. We have tested 1 year with the beyond more than 60, almost 60 years of age, more than. And the psychosocial, the subjective index, we found that improved greatly. And the 5-ways popular score is almost improvement the health status. The self-score, improvement the emotion, daily life, social activity, and the pain sense, dramatically improved after 1 year. And the physiological effect we have tested and many flexibility and balance. And especially we are very much impressed by this one-leg standing test, the closed eye. Dramatic changes. With this dance exercise program, we found that the balance function is within 1 year. Just at the 60 beyond and 70 around people, they usually control only 4 seconds, something like that, but they maintain almost 30 seconds. And more than that, I'm very happy that with this program, more than 8 PhD thesis papers have been passed. And 15 master degree paper has been passed, and they produced many data. And just to summarize, the buoyant max, back muscle power, grip power, muscle endurance, flexibility, agility, balance, and even we found that this muscle power is significantly improved after this exercise program. So, in conclusion, we can say that the physical objective effect, flexibility and balance was good, muscle endurance, muscle power was good, and psychosocial subjective effect, self-satisfaction, pain relievement, and positivity for daily life all improved. And I'm happy that when we introduced this program, WHO, they introduced this program in their newsletter. And also IAGG, International Association Gerontology and Geriatrics, they introduced this experience as a Korean experience as the best practice. And we are invited in many of the sports conference for the older people. So, in the second part, when I conclude briefly, this kind of older people exercise program is well-controlled exercise program and physical mental exercise program and center-based strong network, and more than 1,000 centers have been recruited, and 300,000 participants up to now is reported. And urban and rural harmonization between urban and rural, when we interacting together, they kind of harmonize, we can find, and the lead to participants wrap up good. And this lead we adopted not the professionals, the laymen. It's just 65 beyond the ladies or men or whoever who wanted to practice this for the leader. We just invited and trained them, and they participated and they contributed greatly. And this is not a kind of a job; it's a kind of service program. And the community enthusiasm was great, and the traditional culture effect and social activation was great. So we are happy that this program is so well acknowledged by the people. Thank you very much. I'm very rushed. The time is limited.
Thank you very much, Professor Park. He is talking about the relationship, the importance of caveoli in aging process, and the second part is the importance of activity for anti-aging process. Especially, he introduced Uri-Chu, dance and activity exercise, as you saw. Okay, do we have a question? No question?
And I have one thing to request to you is exercise is very important for the older people. You should pay more attention on the older people, not rather the young people. Young people, okay, it's a competition exercise, but for the older people, it's a health exercise. And we are becoming to the aged society, in the super aged society, and we need an exercise. So I really wish you to pay attention on the exercise program for the older people. That's why I am here. Okay.
Thank you for your excellent presentation. For the last many years, we've proven the usefulness of exercise for the older generation, younger generation, cognitively and physically. But I see a lot of research, and I think one of the most important parts of the research is, we know exercise is good, right? It's about making it enjoyable. Everyone knows going to do weight training, you're going to build muscle, you go do your aerobics, it's good for your cardiovascular system, good for your mental health. But I think the most key point in the future research should be looking at the enjoyability of trying to get the communities involved. I just have after that's come, I might have one other question. What about the people that don't like to dance? Because it's a dance program.
Yeah. But the Korean male people, women, they like it. But the men, they hate. So, how to motivate the old people, men and women, for the exercise program, that is most important, not the program itself. There are many hundred types of exercise programs are available around. But how to encourage, how to motivate, that is important. And especially for the old male people, more important in Korea. In most of our centers, senior centers, the female old people, they dominate. But the male old people, I don't know why they are so escape that place. Okay? So encouraging. So we adopted the traditional culture system more to be more friendly to them. Okay?
Yeah. Your data very interesting. So of course, so the physical fitness change of course good, and the magic data, the mood state test is very nice. Psychological impact is good, I think so. Okay. Any other question? Yes. Okay. One more. Can I have a question?
Okay.
Yeah. Kabeori, I'm very interested topic. Of course, to your point, insulin resistance relationship Kabeori. So, how is the relationship between sarcopenia and the Kabeori, and kind of myokine?
Yeah. There are many, we have reported many things, but the most important recent report is we paid attention on the steroid-dependent atrophy, muscle atrophy. Why the cortisone-dependent, dexamethasone-dependent muscle atrophy is caused. And we found the caveolin is related. And the glucoid receptor, we found that the negative transcriptional control part. And the caveolin is interacting with that. So, just adjusting the caveolin level, I think is very important.
I think probably, of course, so we are sports science field, so we want to try to the comparison of a detailed exercise training program. For example, such as resistance training or aerobic training, so different impact, and depends on the equilibrium of the muscle part.
Okay.
The same similar learning in the case of, for example, soleus muscle and the gastrocnemius muscle, the result in detail. So did you have data in the Kabeori? So
I showed that in the Pantolon, Professor Sang Kim, he did it done, and this caveolin effect is very strong in the resistant exercise. And since the human biopsy is not easy, so he can only check the deltoid muscle and vastus lateralis muscle, and they show the positive response.
okay, another question? Okay. So in this time is so very difficult for invited here. His schedule is very busy. Today so so busy, so right after, so he must go to Seoul, return to. Okay? Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.